your message, share your message. Woo! Yeah.
I'm so excited that y'all are here today. I'm your host, Tonya Hofmann, CEO and founder of the Public Speakers Association. And as always, I have an incredible guest star today, Mr. Jim McCray. Hey, Jim, how are you?
Hey, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me, Tonya.
So I was just on Jim's amazing podcast, and you just have a natural kind of relaxed state about you, which I really appreciate because, we all run into speakers that don't.
Yeah, right. Well, that was not hereditary. I had to develop it. Okay. It reminds me of a story I think I told you once on the podcast, and how my first speaking engagement was just terrifying for me because the man who was supposed to introduce me announced the fact that somebody very important in their group had died, and people started weeping, and I had no idea what to do. I had none. I had never faced a situation like that before, and that made me, I think. I realized that I could handle anything after that one.
There's points in our life that we're like,
Right.
Okay, I got this. So I know you're an expert on kind of the authority of speakers, and what does that really look like?
Well, I can tell you what it used to look like. It used to look like the expensive suit for men and women. It looked like a website or a book. And I suppose those things are important, but they're not as important as I've learned that social proof is what's really important now, because I call it credibility in advance, CIA. And it doesn't have anything to do with spies, Tonya. What it has to do is what other people say about you as opposed to what you say about yourself. So we can give out all these messages like, I'm really successful, I'm authoritative, you should listen to me, right? Mm-hmm. But social proof is what it's all about. And when you can have people on LinkedIn, if you have people on your website, I converted the homepage of my website. Instead of being about me, I've just got all these testimonials about people that I've worked with, and that served me well. So I collect those, like some people collect coins. I think that speakers should be collecting things like testimonials or statements from other people about how good you are, referrals from speaker coordinators. That's what works. And that's what worked with people that I talk to all the time.
Love it. Yes, I so agree. And that's really why I created the Public Speakers Association, because I found that most people, they were wanting to speak, but you would Google them and they're like, who are you? I can't tell which one is you. And then, so how are you, a real speaker?
Right.
So with the authority thing, so when you're getting testimonials, sometimes people feel kind of weird asking, so they just wait for people to give them a testimonial. And tell me how that works for them.
Well, yeah, that's, I don't wait. I don't suggest other people wait. As a matter of fact, I take it even farther. If somebody agrees or if somebody says something good, like right after the talk, they'll say, oh, that was brilliant, I loved it. You have to come and speak to my group. What I say is, well, would you put that in writing? And I'll go further. I'll say, why don't I craft something? I'll send it to you as an email, and then you can just approve it. So what I get then is I get an email back from them. And I let them edit it if they want. I get an email back from them, and it says, Jim is this and this and this, and he's a great speaker, and you should have him, and it's signed so-and-so. So if I leave people to their own devices to write testimonials about me, they'll just use the vague words like great speaker. Well, what does that mean? Well, but he really touched the audience. Well, that means something else. Or he really helped us. That means another thing. So I'm not afraid to ask, and I'm not afraid to even write them for people.
I totally agree. I'm so glad that you're talking about this, because that is the hardest thing to get across people, is make other people's lives easier. They want to do it for you, but people are busy, especially employees that are, running all these events for a company. They don't have time to sit and write you a really well thought out testimonial. So help them by giving them what they just already said to you, or what they really want to say about you.
I agree. It reminds me of something that happened to me when I was a kid. I am not a natural born salesperson. I never was. And I was never a natural born swimmer either. My parents sent me to swimming lessons when I was a little kid. And I always stood by the side of the pool and I was afraid to jump in. And so this went on 2 or 3 weeks. And finally, some of the other kids decided they were just going to push me in. So I was standing by the side of the pool. They pushed me in, and I realized that, hey, this isn't so bad. I can do this. I can swim. And so I had to be pushed. And maybe if you have a mentor or if you join an organization like yours, you'll find people that will help you along the way. And I always found that to be really important, that to find somebody to push you a little bit. If you can't do it, you can do it.
Especially, when you start looking at social media, and I love that you're telling everyone about, get other people to talk about you. I mean, that's one of the bases for the Public Speaker Association is I have 65,000 people I can put everybody in front of. I can talk about you. Don't you think that would be great to have a Public Speaker Association talking about you? But to a lot of people, they don't grasp how important that is. They just think doing a monologue over and over and over again is going to somehow make them, sound so much more important.
Right. Well, the days of the elevator speech are over. Now it's, how can I help you? So you have the Speakers Association. How can I help you do that? And that's what works now, to give before you get. And there's a friend of mine, she's a speaker. Her name is Susan Rowan. And she says, be a matchmaker, not a taker.
Love it.
And so I always loved that. And she told me that years ago, and it's never gone out of my mind. And that's the way that I try to work with people. Because when you go to a meeting or networking or a conference and you have this pocket full of business cards and brochures, people don't want that anymore.
Exactly.
I go to get business cards. Can I send you a copy of my thing, or can I help you, or I know somebody that needs your product. Mm-hmm. That, I think that's how it's supposed to work, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about relationships.
Absolutely, yes.
Mm-hmm. I know when I go and I'm a speaker or just going to an event, it doesn't even matter if I'm a speaker or not. I reach out to every one of the speakers that's speaking at that event and say hello before I go, so that by the time I get there, I've got a whole new set of friends that we can actually then go even beyond that first, who are you? What do you want? Moments.
I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like doing that too, especially if I'm a speaker at a conference. I like going around and talking to people. It's sort of warming up. It's you wouldn't start a marathon without stretching or doing something like that, right? Warming up. I love to go to events and talk to people in the hall, talk to the other speakers. And sometimes annoying those other speakers can really save you, because let's say you have a cord that breaks. And I've seen that where somebody tripped on a cord and they broke the wire inside of it. Isn't it nice that you know who the other speakers are, so they can see, hey, do you have a USB cord that I can get from you? And I've seen speakers get down on their hands and knees in a suit, an expensive suit, to help somebody or a meeting planner hook up a computer to a projector for the slides, just without thinking. They just do it. And I love that kind of people.
I know I have this kind of kit that I travel with, and I don't usually use PowerPoint myself, but I have a clicker. I've got all of these different things for other people, because batteries, whatever it is, because a lot of times people are like, oh my gosh, this thing is, whatever. And you're the savior. You come in, you're like, here you go.
Well, yeah. And you just made an incredible friend. Yeah, I love that. I think if you're in service of people, Ken Blanchard is the person who got me involved in speaking. I went to a conference in Dallas, and this was years ago when Ken was first starting out, and my boss couldn't go. So I sat at the head table, and so I had no other reason to be at the head table. Okay. I was just a district manager. And so anyway, I sat down next to Ken Blanchard, and he had just written a book called The 1 Minute Manager. And he gave a talk, and I was just so blown away. And I thought, I want to do that. So when he came back and sat down, I said, Ken, I want to do what you do. And he was so encouraging to me. It was amazing. And I loved it. And the crazy part of this story is when I got into my own business and I started speaking to develop clients, I've been paid to speak, and I've also spoken to develop clients. Now, I sat down one day and I realized that 80% of my clients came from speaking engagements. So anyway, to make a long story short, 20 years later, I'm sitting in Ken Blanchard's office talking to the CEO of his company as a consultant to them. So I had to pinch myself and say, what am I doing here? Right. But the whole thing, he started that, and the whole thing took me to the place where I was helping him. And so it didn't happen overnight, I'll tell you what, but it was so encouraging. So I love to encourage new speakers or people who are speaking, because it's tough. You're on the road, you're sleeping in hotels, you're eating horrible food in restaurants, and it's just nice to have somebody come alongside of you and say, you can do this, or you're really good, or how can I help you? That to me has meant a lot.
I think they always say that people never remember really what you say. They remember how you make them feel, right? And
Yes.
if we all helped each other move forward, we all it doesn't, I think people are starting to finally realize that squishing somebody down does not help you move forward. If we all flow together, we're all pushing to help each other elevate each other.
Oh, yeah.
It moves the whole world in a different direction.
Oh, yeah. No, I love what you're saying. I like it when I'm at a conference and there's other speakers, and if I follow somebody, I'll say something good about what they said, or I'll repeat something they said. As the speaker before me said this and this really good thing, and so give them props. And then I'll even go to the point where I'll say, well, the next speaker is going to talk about this, and she's just really qualified. You need to listen to her. And that's another way to make friends as a speaker, because they're not going to forget that one.
Oh, yeah.
Not going to forget the fact that you pointed to them, because I've seen the opposite. Now, I've seen the opposite where they've said something bad about another speaker, or they ran over and they took their time, which is this mortal sin, this unforgivable sin of running over your time, that you can't recover from that one.
Yes, I know. People are always amazed. My conferences are just boom, boom, boom. And one of the things that I make sure is that the people understand that they have a time allotment, and then my MCs get up on stage and kind of shush them away, because it is, how disrespectful is it to take up
Yes.
somebody else's time,
You're right. And the meeting planner is over in the corner. And I saw that happen once. I forget where I was. All these cities run together after a while, but I saw the meeting planner there, and this guy was running over, and she was in the front row moving her hands like this and trying to get this person's attention, and he just wasn't going to stop. He didn't even, it's like he had no peripheral vision. And I could see the other speaker, who I knew who she was over in the corner, and her face was all red, and she had prepared, and she had come over there. She could just see her time shrinking. But meeting planners, they are a tight-knit group. They exchange names and say, well, don't bring in this guy, because he has a tendency to run over, and he's not even going to pay attention to you when you jump up and down. So I know that's an extreme case, but it happens. And I think we as speakers, we just put our ego aside and just work on helping the people in the room, whatever I can do to help those people, and somehow they leave better off than when I came.
Oh, yeah. It makes the whole audience uncomfortable, and it's just what it is. It's just kind of the reality of it.
Yeah. So yeah, there's no place in this business anymore for ego. I know there's some of the speakers of old, they would get upset if, everything wasn't set up perfectly, and
Yeah.
things happen. And, as speakers, we always want to walk the room to make sure that the microphone is set up and the microphone works and the slides are working. And it's just, you can't show up at the last minute. And it's just all part of a business. And it is a business, even though you're not being paid in dollars. And I've done it both ways. But when they invite you into their group, you have to act like a guest, I think. Yeah.
The diva, yeah.
The days of the diva are over. Yeah.
Yeah. We have this whole group of event planners, and as soon as we find someone, they're like, oh no, or oh my gosh, this person's great. We all tell each other, and people don't realize you could blow your career instantaneously by being that, oh, I can't believe this is going on,
Yeah, no, you're so right about that. Absolutely.
So Jim, how do people get a hold of you, and do you have something you would like to offer everyone today?
Well, one thing that's really worked for me, and I love to share it, it's a template, and I've used it for a long time. I used it in a seminar business. I was in the seminar business for years with a business partner, and we just traveled. I think we did 200 of them. I mean, it was over all the years, and I hope I'm not exaggerating, but we would go out like 50 days a year. And I developed this little sheet, and I'm going to give it to everybody that's watching today as a Word doc, and they can just alter it. And what it does is it asks a couple of questions about what's the most important thing you learned. Are you a member of another group that could use a speaker? And so on and so forth. So they can go to my website. It's mccraigh.com. That's mccraigh.com/template. And it's there, and you don't need to leave an email address or anything. Just grab it and then alter it for yourself. That use it. And I have gotten more speaking engagements from that darn little one piece of paper that I can count.
Love it. All righty, everyone. So get his name correct so you can, make sure you can get to the template. So Jim McCraigh, MC, another C, RAIGH.
Yes, thank you.
.com, and that way you can get his template. I'm so excited that you were on here, Jim, today. Everyone, please get connected with Jim. He's got an amazing podcast. How do they get a hold of your podcast?
It's High Income Coaching, and it is on the Coaching Connector, and that's thecoachingconnector.com. It's an organization a lot like yours, but it's for coaches, and there's lots of things on there. There's a couple of podcasts. There's all kinds of resources. It's free to join, and they can put a profile up.
Awesome.
If you're a coach, you can put a profile up, and it's free, and people can find you. It's a directory. So I would really suggest that, thecoachingconnector.com, if you're a coach.
Love that. All righty. So go and do that too. Get connected with Jim. Also, we're looking for speakers right now for the Public Speakers Conference.com. So go to Public Speakers with an S, conference.com to find out how you can go and speak in London, England, and become an international speaker and have a lot of fun with the most amazing people that you will want to just, know forever and ever. So thank you, Jim. Thank you, everyone. We will see you next time on the Share Your Message TV show.
Thank you.